One of the other issues that is the most, I think, dangerous at this point right now, this is even more dangerous than out-of-control regulatory agencies. I'm talking about the future and safety of the United States and our allies. More dangerous than an $18 trillion debt is this deal with Iran. I have been reading the deal with Iran. The more I read it, the more concerned and scared that I'm getting about this deal. We're beginning to get out and let people know about how bad the deal with Iran really is. If you want to sell your house, have John Kerry negotiate the sell for the buyer. Because not only will you get double the asking price, the buyer will likely build a new home for you as well. That's how lopsided this deal with Iran is. Now, one of the things about House Freedom Caucus is we're made up of members from different areas of the country, but also that serve on different committees. Now, I serve on the Homeland Security Committee on a Special Counterterrorism Task Force. And so I tend to specialize in those areas as well as on science, space, and technology, which I chair the Oversight Subcommittee, and so through that we get to go after some of these other agencies. I've got one of what I feel is a very close friend of mine, who has also been a mentor of mine in Congress, serves on the Foreign Relations Committee and is a much more in-depth on Iran than I am, and he also serves on the Government Oversight Committee. He serves with Trey Gowdy, on the Oversight Committee. And so when I talked to him the other day, I thought it may be a good idea to do a team town hall, because some of you have some questions about these. And so what I want to do is introduce to you tonight one of my good friends and mentors, Congressman Mark Meadows from North Carolina, who's with us tonight. And Mark, if you come up and
thank you so much for allowing me to come to what many of you describe as God's country, and so it is a warm and friendly crowd, and so I want to say thank you. And normally you can't say that when you come to a town hall. We have town halls, they're not normally warm and friendly crowds. I do want to say this, though. Thank you for sending Barry Loudermilk to Washington, D.C. He has not only been a voice for you, but he's also one who will debate the issues back and forth. You know, he mentions the House Freedom Caucus. One of the things that we get to do in there is debate these issues and go back and forth. Now, as you can imagine, there are not always, we're not always of like mind, you know, when you debate things back and forth. And I look at that and put it in a historical context. Most of you have heard of Patrick Henry, but you know him as give me liberty or give me death, and that's how you know Patrick Henry. Well, really, if you start to look at part of that argument that was going back and forth at that particular time, was really about the Constitution and what it did and what it did not do. And there was an argument that was going back and forth, and had that argument among really patriots not taken place, we wouldn't have had the Bill of Rights. And so as a result of that, we ended up getting the Bill of Rights because they felt like the Constitution was a little ambiguous on some of those things, that it didn't protect those individual civil liberties that we all hold dear. So can you imagine the Constitution without the Bill of Rights? I can't, and that came out of that tension that was there. But I'm here tonight to say, one, thank you for showing up. You know, when you take your valuable time to come out and let your voice be heard. Barry, on a number of times, has said, well, you know, this is what I'm hearing from the district, and this is what I'm hearing from the people back home. So I want to encourage each one of you, whether you're supportive of Barry or not, to let your voice be heard. Because if your voice is not heard, then ultimately there are others that will fill the gap. And I'm just telling you, they'll come in, they come into my office on a regular basis. We have one option in my office. If you're from my district, you get in. If you're from my state, you get in next. And if you're a lobbyist, you get in third. And you know, I think that's really puts the emphasis where it needs to be. But I'm here tonight to talk to you a little bit about Iran. I serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I'm on the Middle East Subcommittee. I actually met with Foreign Minister Zarif, who is the negotiator for Iran, one-on-one for about an hour and 45 minutes in New York. Israel is my passion. And I'll go from here. Actually, I'll go and travel to Colorado here in a couple of weeks and then out to California, trying to make sure that America does what is best for America. Now, I say that because it's 159 pages, and if you read the details, as Barry was talking about, some of those things that are getting in there are very troubling. When we look at ballistic missiles, there's only one reason for ballistic missile, and it's not Israel. It's us. And when we look at allowing the ballistic missiles, the way that the document reads right now, it says, well, they can obtain that capability in 8 years. But it's even worse than that. Because if you look at the next sentence, it says, whenever the IAEA approves that they're okay, whichever comes earlier. So they could essentially be obtaining ballistic missile capability within the next couple of years. I've had Secretary Kerry in front of me at the Foreign Affairs Committee hearing just this last week. We've had experts before that. But here's what I want you to share on Facebook and Twitter. And how many Facebook people do we have here? All right, most of them. Now, I always ask this because I'm curious, because I didn't know what Twitter was until I ran for office. How many tweeters or Twitter users do you have? Okay, a lot less. The greater I get, the more I realize the less technology I have. But I can tell you, the media picks up on what is trending on Twitter very quickly. And so if you can get engaged in that, I encourage you to do that. It also allows, I know Barry has staff that actually picks up on that. But here's what I'm pleading with you and asking you to do tonight, is make sure that you reach out beyond just this congressional district. Reach out to perhaps Democrat friends that you may have in other districts. Because what happens is, in order to you say you don't have any Democrat friends. Well, some unaffiliated friends. How about that? All right. So if you would reach out, and I'm asking you to do this. There is not any more critical vote that we're going to take as members of Congress or senators that will affect generations to come. And I say that because what a nuclear Iran has only one ultimate goal, and that's to destroy the American dream and destroy us. So I ask you to reach out and go as far as you can to make sure that your voice is heard, so that we can start to convince some of those to overturn what will be a presidential veto in the coming weeks. There's enough votes in the House and the Senate to send a disapproval resolution there, but I want to encourage you to do that. I'll be available to answer specific questions as it relates to that. I'm going to turn it back. If there was such a thing as a good deal, I can tell you that Iran wouldn't have signed on the deal. It's imperative that you speak up for Israel, but not just Israel, but for the American people. Thank you for allowing me to come. Look forward to